Ready for an adventure? Today we're going deep into the heart of South Africa to explore their cultural performances and oral traditions.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. And you know what's really interesting? We often think of these traditions as being, well, just for entertainment, but it turns out they reveal so much about human nature no matter where you're from.
Absolutely. It's about more than just a good show.
Right. So for this deep dive, we've gathered some amazing research articles, even firsthand accounts of cultural practices, all about South Africa's incredible heritage.
Yeah, it's a great mix. And what I find so compelling about these traditions is that they go way beyond entertainment. They're woven into everyday life in South Africa, shaping identity, community, and even how people see the world.
Especially in a country as diverse as South Africa, understanding these traditions is like, I don't know, getting a glimpse into the soul of the nation.
You got it.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We got to start with cultural performances. Now, like I said, most people probably think those are purely for fun, but you're saying there's a lot more to it.
Oh, absolutely. Think of them as living, breathing expressions of culture. They bring people together, celebrate shared beliefs, mark those big life transitions, and even educate future generations.
So it's not just a show. It's a reflection of values, beliefs.
Exactly. And in South Africa, it's all amplified by this idea of the rainbow nation, this amazing blend of cultures and heritages.
I love that concept.
It's beautiful. And you see this rainbow nation concept woven into so many cultural practices, especially those that revolve around those big life moments.
That makes sense. Okay, so can we get into some specific examples? Because our sources mentioned some seriously captivating performances. I'm super curious about the Zulu reed dance. Thousands of maidens, these elaborate costumes. What's the story behind this one?
Ah, the Zulu reed dance. It's a sight to behold. Imagine 15,000 Zulu maidens, each one carrying a reed, all gathered at the king's residence. They present these reeds and perform these incredibly intricate dances, but it goes so much deeper than that visual spectacle.
Okay, so what's the deeper meaning? What's the significance of all this?
This dance, it's all about preparing young women for womanhood. It's about educating them on proper behavior, self-respect, and their role in society. It's a detailed process, involves things like getting approval from suitors, family exchanges. It's really fascinating.
Wow, so it's like a deeply significant coming-of-age ritual. Are all of the cultural performances in South Africa this, I don't know, serious?
Not at all. There are dances that are purely celebratory, like the Tsonga Xibelani dance. This one is all about joy and expressing that joy through movement.
Sounds fun.
You often see it at weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, any occasion that calls for some exuberant dancing, really.
I love it. So what makes this particular dance so unique?
Well, the women wear these amazing skirts, you see, specially designed to emphasize the movement of their hips as they dance to traditional music. It's really a feast for the eyes.
I can only imagine the energy must be incredible. Now, we also came across a dance that's mainly performed by men, right? The Sepedi dance.
Yes, the Sepedi dance. This one is all about the men expressing themselves. Imagine them adorned with these colorful costumes, elaborate ostrich feather headdresses, moving rhythmically to the sound of flutes and drums.
Wow.
There's this sense of freedom in their movements. It's all about letting loose, celebrating.
It sounds like each dance has its own distinct energy, its own purpose. But one thing they all seem to have in common is that incredible visual element.
Absolutely. And that speaks to a broader point about cultural performances in South Africa. They aren't just about the steps or the music. It's about this beautiful weaving together of powerful visuals with deep cultural meaning.
It's like they're giving us a window into the soul of the culture.
Exactly.
And you know, speaking of passing down traditions and cultural memory, it makes me think about storytelling. Every culture has its stories, right? But what is it about stories that makes them so magical, so universal?
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How stories can be both universal and deeply personal at the same time. I mean, think about it. Stories teach us, reinforce morals, help us understand who we are, and connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Oh, I remember my grandmother used to tell me stories every single night before bed. It was our special time. And those stories, they really shaped my imagination. What would you say are the key elements that make a story truly captivating?
Well, first you need a good dose of suspense, right? Something to keep you on the edge of your seat. Then, of course, you need a well-structured plot, those vivid details that bring the characters and settings to life.
It's all about the details.
Yes, and you gotta have characters we can connect with, whether we love them or love to hate them.
I'm a sucker for a good villain.
Oh, me too. But don't forget the heroes.
Of course not.
And, perhaps most importantly, a truly captivating story needs a strong underlying message. A thought-provoking theme that resonates with us long after the story ends.
So true. Now we've got myths, legends, epics, folktales, so many different types of stories. What really sets them apart?
It really comes down to their purpose is how they're structured. Myths, for example, often explain the origins of the universe, humanity, or natural phenomena. They offer explanations for the things we can't explain.
It's like humanity's first attempt to understand the world around them.
Exactly. Then you have legends, which celebrate heroes or extraordinary individuals. Think of them as a blend of history and imagination designed to inspire and instill values. Epics, on the other hand, tend to preserve histories and cultural milestones, often on a grand scale.
So each type of story has its own special function. What about folk tales? Those seem to be more about everyday life and, well, folks.
You're right. Folk tales, fables, fairy tales, they're often morality tales. They use simple language and familiar archetypes to convey wisdom and life lessons.
Okay, so what exactly are archetypes?
Think of them as universal symbols that transcend cultures and time. They represent different aspects of the human experience and tap into something deep within us.
So like the trickster, the hero, the villain, those classic characters that pop up in stories from all over the world.
Exactly. The trickster with their cleverness and cutting, the hero embodying bravery and righteousness, and of course the villain representing those darker impulses that we all wrestle with. They help us understand ourselves and the world around us.
And then there are those anti-heroes, right? The flawed protagonists who sometimes steal the show.
Those are interesting because they remind us that even imperfect people can do extraordinary things.
So we've talked about cultural performances and we've talked about storytelling. But how do these two seemingly separate art forms actually intersect?
That's where the magic of ritual drama comes in. It's this incredible fusion of storytelling, dance, song, and costume. It often draws inspiration from myths and serves as a form of worship or celebration. Think of it as a kind of theater that blurs the line between performance and sacred ritual.
Like, for example, ancient Egyptian ritual drama. I remember reading about those incredible performances at Abydos, all about celebrating the myth of Osiris.
Exactly. Imagine processions, mock battles, performers in spectacular costumes, all designed to bring that myth to life and connect the community to their beliefs and their cultural heritage.
It's amazing how these traditions have lasted for centuries.
It is a testament to their power. But it's also important to acknowledge that colonization disrupted so many traditional practices in South Africa. Western theater forms were often imposed, and sadly, traditional performances were sometimes pushed aside, even actively suppressed.
It's heartbreaking to think about the loss of that cultural knowledge.
It is. It's a difficult chapter in history. But despite all of that, South African artists and communities have shown incredible resilience. They've found ways to adapt, preserve, and even revitalize their cultural heritage, breathing new life into those ancient traditions.
So what does South African theater look like today?
It's a dynamic and evolving scene. It's this vibrant blend, where ancient ceremonies and ritual dramas exist alongside modern plays, musicals, even experimental performance art. It's this space where those age-old stories meet modern perspectives, where artists push boundaries and challenge conventions.
Wow, that's quite the mix. It sounds like there's this really interesting tension between, I don't know, preserving the past and embracing the future.
Exactly. And what's so exciting is that South African theater is gaining international recognition. It's a voice that deserves to be heard, on the global stage, offering this unique and powerful perspective.
It's amazing how these traditions have endured through so much. It really speaks to the resilience of the artists who keep them alive. All this talk about South African culture makes me wonder about something.
What's that?
Well, we've been focusing specifically on South Africa, but these themes of performance, storytelling, ritual, they're universal, aren't they? What are your thoughts on, the broader importance of cultural exchange and appreciation?
That's a great point. In today's world, I think it's more important than ever to break down those barriers and embrace the incredible diversity of human experience.
It's about recognizing that we all have something unique to offer, and by, engaging with different cultures, we can enrich our own understanding of the world and ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not just about understanding, it's about appreciating the beauty, the wisdom, the artistry that different cultures bring to the table.
Whether it's through music, dance, storytelling, or ritual, each culture has its own way of expressing itself, celebrating life, mourning loss, making sense of the world.
And when we open ourselves up to those expressions, it's like opening ourselves up to a whole new world of possibilities.
It's like expanding your personal library of experiences, stories, and perspectives.
Precisely. And that journey of cultural exploration, it never really ends. There's always something new to discover, something that challenges your assumptions, something that makes you see the world in a whole new light.
That's what makes life so fascinating, right? That constant sense of wonder and discovery.
Absolutely. And speaking of fascinating discoveries, did you know that in some South African cultures, storytelling isn't just about entertainment? It's actually used for healing.
Healing, tell me more about that.
Okay, so imagine a traditional healer, or Sangoma. They use stories to diagnose and treat illnesses. These stories often draw on myths, legends, ancestral wisdom. It's amazing. They address both the physical and spiritual aspects of a person's well-being.
So it's like the words themselves have power to heal.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the collective wisdom of the community, the power of belief, and that deep connection between storytelling and healing. And this isn't unique to South Africa either. You see this in many cultures where stories are used to pass down knowledge about, medicinal plants, spiritual practices, even psychological insights.
It makes you think about how, even in modern medicine, doctors often use storytelling to connect with their patients, help them understand their conditions.
That's such a great observation. It highlights how storytelling can bridge gaps, build empathy, create this sense of shared understanding. It's powerful stuff, no matter the context.
It really is. It makes you appreciate how storytelling isn't just entertainment. It's a fundamental part of the human experience.
I couldn't agree more. This deep dive into cultural performances and oral traditions, it's really highlighted the role of ritual, too.
Ritual, you mean those symbolic actions, the ones that carry so much cultural meaning?
Exactly. From birth to death and everything in between, rituals mark those important transitions in our lives. They give us this sense of structure, meaning, and belonging.
Right, like weddings, funerals, coming-of-age ceremonies, those rituals that help us navigate those big life moments.
And it's amazing how rituals often incorporate elements of storytelling, music, dance, visual arts. They create a truly immersive experience.
It's like they're engaging all of our senses, drawing us in, and making the whole experience so much more powerful.
Exactly, but rituals aren't just about personal experience. They also play a vital social role. They bring communities together, reinforce shared values, and strengthen those social
It's
bonds.
like the heartbeat of the community, keeping everything in rhythm.
I love that analogy. And you know what else is fascinating? Thinking about how rituals have evolved over time, adapting to new circumstances while still holding on to that core meaning.
It's that thread that connects us to the past while guiding us into the future. It's beautiful.
It is. Beautifully put. And speaking of the future, as we wrap up our deep dive into this rich tapestry of South African culture, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. How do these South African stories and rituals, these incredible ways of expressing identity, how do they connect to your own experiences, to your understanding of the world?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture, right? What can we learn from these traditions? How can they inspire us to create a more vibrant, more connected global community?
It really highlights how much we all have in common, even across continents and cultures. This whole deep dive is just, it's really made me want to experience these traditions in person. I bet it's even more powerful when you're right there in the moment.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing quite like it. The energy of a live performance, the feeling of a story being shared by a master storyteller, those experiences, they stay with you.
So to anyone listening, if you're feeling inspired, I say go for it. Seek out these traditions, immerse yourself in the culture, read a book, watch a documentary, attend a performance.
Or even just strike up a conversation with someone from a different background. You'd be surprised by what you can learn.
Exactly. Embracing cultural diversity, it's about more than just tolerance. It's about actively seeking out those different perspectives, appreciating the beauty and the wisdom they have to offer.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity while also celebrating what makes us unique.
And that's what makes exploring different cultures so rewarding, right? It's a journey of learning and discovery that lasts a lifetime. And it's one we can all go on together. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep your minds open to the infinite possibilities of human culture.